Yes.
There is a basic philosophy of life, which is, if you're right here and you want to do something about a certain things, make sure that your situation is a little better. It just comes a little up. If it stays there, maybe you can tolerate that. But if it takes you down, don't do it. We have done things to try to correct things which have taken us further and further in downward spiral.
Which is lack of insight.
Exactly, exactly. That is what we should not do. If you have to educate people, educate them to understand the society, to understand human nature, to understand where they're living, to understand the results that they can get out of an effort. Use wisdom, use common sense.
Yes.
And if they can use that common sense, at least this kind of targeting of Muslim community will, if not finish, at least it can be reduced to a great degree.
But let's tie this with something called the crime of passion. It's in every culture, in every religion, everywhere, and you could have offset from the crime of passion. Is also as offspring's killing. So that, like the crime in Austria, and you mentioned that too, the same. The idea is there is in every society, we're not going to label religion alone, in every society similar incidents like that. But the media, as you confirmed my point, is a source of excitement and a scandalous source that keeps the media alive and keeps the media selling their point, which means a person kills his daughter for one reason or another. If he's, let's say, non-Muslim, from any kind of from any other religion, they do not mention the person. He is an evangelist, or he's a Christian, or he's a Jew, or he's a Hindu, or he's a Sikh, or he's this. The only Muslim being targeted and singled out when any crime happened or something similar to that. And as you said, the crime or the sniper of Washington did the same thing. Let's take a look back again before that, when Oklahoma incident, the first declaration of the society, they target Muslims. Until 5 weeks later, the media announced the person who was not a Muslim.
We have to go for a break. This is an interesting discussion. Please stand by. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and welcome back to Spirit of Islam. Today we're discussing the issue where a while back a father had beat his daughter. Unfortunately, sadly, she died, and this father happened to be a Muslim, and it became Islam on trial. And is this what Islam is causing and Islam is teaching, where, as we mentioned earlier, Islam has nothing to do with this? And actually, if we look at statistics within the world, we find this kind of crimes within the Muslim community is much less than other communities. And yet the media puts the highlight that this is Islamic teaching, or this is how Muslims are. Sadly, yes, some Muslims might be like this, but this has nothing to do with Islam. We'll carry on with our discussion. Shahid, how do we resolve this? We see it every day, and yet maybe our reaction is wrong as Muslims.
Well, the thing is, you talked about statistics. I haven't seen those statistics, but I would imagine that this happens in
Yes.
many communities. The fact is, as we talked earlier as well, that we should not really hide our head in the sand. We should know, acknowledge what the trend in the society is, what is the current climate, and then do what we think will enhance or at least benefit the society as a whole.
Yes.
And the first thing in that is that we should not take any kind of attempt to create a reputation or an image for the entire Muslim community based on incidents like that. There are people in all kind of, you talked about newspapers, in certain sections of the media, there are people who just think that if there is ever a fair game, it is this, that you can associate If there's terrorism, you can call it Islamic terrorism.
Yes.
If there is a crime, you can call it Islamist crime. Islam is attached to whatever is the negative attribute in that society. And I think in Canada, we are so fortunate that we live in a country which, frankly, if we compare it to any other country, it may turn out to be the best overall.
I believe
so
it is
far,
the best, by
so
the way.
far, so
Yeah.
far as the freedom of expression, the protection, the rights are concerned.
Yes.
So we don't have to be meek and too submissive. We can be bold and take a stand. For example, if we see that certain journalists, they are playing a game with the reputation of an entire community, expose them, rebut them, write equally strong articles. You have a very educated, highly educated Muslim population here. Bring them together somehow.
So
have that think
how
tank
do we
which does
condemn
that.
the crime and show that it has nothing to do with Muslim? Because this is a bad deed, and
Of
it
course.
breaks all our hearts, everybody's heart.
And at the same time, sometimes we make the mistake that we begin to defend
Yes.
the culprits. That is the worst. Throw the book.
Yeah.
Throw the
And that's what Islam tells us to do.
highest
right?
extent of law
Yeah.
applied to
Yeah.
them. Treat criminals as criminals, no matter whether they're Muslims or non-Muslims. But the thing is, do not associate. And that we can only tell people by really educating them, by interacting with other faiths. Muslim community, I have seen there are very few mosques, for example, which will open themselves to other religions.
Yes.
They should open those mosques to other religions. They should invite people, let them have a dialogue, let them interact, let them understand. Because once people try to do that, I have seen they have almost invariably gone back and say, my goodness, this is a religion of peace.
Yes.
Well, and on that note, I think media is being blowing things out of proportion when it comes to, as you said, the negative image of Islam that being spread out in North America, or especially nowadays in our society. In order to correct that, that's the original theme of this show, that how we can educate people and fix this problem or correct this problem. The idea is we need something similar to this show. We need the media, and we need people who are educated in the background of Islam. In the meantime, more expert of the life in this society, which you mentioned earlier. This is one of the best, if not the best, society in the world that we live in. It's Canada. And in order to reach out, it's a freedom of choice, freedom of expression that allows people to say anything they want. But when it comes down to defending your own religion and your own culture, because somebody who mishandled or misunderstood the religion from one point or another and commit a crime, the law of the land applies, which exactly matches the law of Islam. The person who committed a crime Islamically, fine. That where's we have to throw the book at him, as you mentioned yourself, and you two agreed on the same point. We do not argue about the punishment of that person because he committed humanitarian crime or crime against humanity. But we need the stance or media like this program to explain the Islam point of view instead of
Muhammad,
defending.
the thing is, we talk about media. Tell me, why should media, which is in the business of selling newspaper, should not go to the lowest common denominator?
Yes.
They will go to the lowest common denominator. If they get excited about listening to these negative stories, then they get excited about it.
Yeah.
The thing is, we can at least, and we are free to do so, counter that effort by coming up with the corrective, with more educative, with more enlightened and insightful information where people can at least